All right, real quick, we're gonna look at how to clean a Glock Gen 5. This is also very similar for the Gen 4 and the Gen 3. I'm gonna start with the pistol field stripped, which is the slide and the frame separated, barrel, recoil spring assembly. By now you should know how to check to make sure the pistol's unloaded and how to break it down. So we're gonna focus just on the cleaning process. So first we're gonna grab the barrel, gonna give it a good wiping. Just wipe it down really nicely. Just get everywhere. The locking lugs here, make sure those are clean. Those tend to get dirty. The barrel hood here, especially the parts where it interfaces with the slide, and you'll see there's a little bit of wear on the finish there. So all those parts where you see wear, pay special attention to that. Make sure that everything is nice and clean. The feed ramp, that's a little dirty. Sometimes the build-up's a little stubborn. Doesn't have to be completely perfect, but just give it a good wipe down. It's perfect. The face of the chamber back here gets a lot of residue, so you want to clean all that. All of these is pretty important for your feeding and your slide lock and all that. So give it a good cleaning. This is a good time to clean the bore as well. You can use whatever you want, brush, nylon brush. I like to use these special Q-tips that are specifically made for this purpose. Just throw it in there a few times. I don't really use any solvent or anything. You can if you want to. I keep my guns pretty clean generally, so I just don't let a lot of crap build up in there. All right, that looks good. Wipe down the recoil spring assembly. Give it a good wipe down. The slide tends to get pretty dirty in here. You're gonna wanna get in here and wipe down as much as possible. Pretty much every surface. Get all that carbon out. The rails, you're gonna wanna get as much crap out of them as possible. Doesn't hurt if you just run some kind of toothpick there to get any gunk out. Just softly, you know, you don't want to scratch the metal and whatever. You don't want to wear it down over time, you know. It's not gonna wear down if you do it once, but if you do it year after year, yeah, you just want to break down the carbon a little bit, get it all out. This area gets pretty dirty, so you just want to get in there and get all that stuff out. Any particularly stubborn spots, especially around the firing pin safety, you're gonna see some build up there. Gonna want to clean all that. Then you're gonna want to work the extractor a little bit. Get your extractor groove in here nice and clean. You want to make sure you Get any gunk out of there so that you can have proper extraction. Blast it a little bit if you've got a compressed air can. Or any kind of air compressor or any of that. Okay, wipe it down real good. There we go, that looks pretty good. Okay, that's it for the basic cleaning of the slide. The frame, super easy. So here we have a 3/30 seconds punch. This is a Glock armor tool, but any 3/30 second punch will work just fine. So you want to come in from the left side, push it out. Okay, you don't want to lose it, so put it somewhere safe. And I do the same right now for the trigger housing block, this part right here. Now the best little trick I know for getting the locking block out is just pushing the trigger forward. You just pull it forward, it comes right out, you see? Pull that out, slide stop came right out as well. And then you remove your trigger housing mechanism block and the well, the whole assembly. So this is a good time to get in there. Sometimes I'll just use the same Q-tips I used for the barrel to get into the corners here and give the frame a good wiping. It gets a lot of carbon and stuff that coats the whole interior of the frame. I just come in and try to remove as much of that stuff as possible. Give it a good wipe. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I prefer to keep it decently clean. So again, it just takes a minute. And you know, I shoot these guns quite a bit, and there's no reason not to keep them clean. Some people go 50,000 rounds without cleaning. I usually clean once a week or so. It takes just a couple minutes. It's not that big of a deal. You don't have to, you know, it's your gun, you can do whatever you want with it, but this is what I do with mine, just because it's so easy. So easy. Like, Glocks are such easy guns to work on. So you want to disassemble your trigger mechanism, the whole assembly. So what you're going to do is grab the trigger bar and twist it counterclockwise outwards until it releases from the trigger spring bearing, little flange there, and it comes right out. Okay, so you're gonna take it and give it a good wipe. This is usually really easy to clean. You want to pay special attention to the crucifix, this little cross-shaped section, the little trigger safety plunger here. Give all that a good cleaning till it's, you know, pretty clean. Takes a second. Okay, then you're gonna want to grab your trigger mechanism housing block, push the connector out from this side using your 3/30 second punch. Comes right out. Okay, give that guy a nice cleaning too. As you can see, this is an aftermarket connector, no big deal. The the original Glock one works the same way. So make it nice and clean. Good. Give the housing block a bit of a cleaning. You don't need to pull out the trigger spring and bearing, etc. You don't need to worry about that. That's kind of a finicky part to deal with. So once you get here, you should be done with the disassembly process of the slide. Just give this a nice thorough cleaning. Perfect. Let's take the locking block, do the same thing. Give it a nice cleaning. Every surface, sometimes there's a whole lot of gunk that gets in there. Pay special attention to areas where you see wear. Obviously, that's where, if carbon builds up, it's going to accelerate that wear. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Nice and clean. Same thing with the slide stop. This guy gets pretty dirty because there's a lot of gases and residue that gets thrown around in this area. Give this guy a nice cleaning too. That looks good enough. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. There you go. Frame looks good. All the frame parts look good. And now we just start assembling again. So you grab the housing block, your your connector goes this way with the little L-shaped tab first. You just push it all the way until it seats all the way in. Hold on, I see a little residue there that I missed. Just gonna get rid of that real quick. Just to, since we're cleaning it, might as well make it clean, right? All right, so back to the installation of the connector. Just push that in until it's seated all the way. You want to make sure that there will be a gap up here, because this sits at a kind of an angle in relation to the block. That's okay, that's supposed to be that way. But at the bottom here, where the tab goes into the block, you want to make sure that you close that gap as much as possible. You just push it all the way in, and when it stops, and that's where it should be. So we're gonna start putting a little bit of foil on on all the parts that require oil. There isn't a lot of them. Because the oiling of the slide takes a little while, I'm gonna start with that. I'm just gonna apply 2 drops, no more than a couple of drops. Oh, there's some crap in here. Okay, a couple of drops on each side. 1, 2, 1 and 2, and then just let it rest on the front and let that oil work its way down the rails while you do the rest. All right, then the next we go back to the trigger mechanism housing block, and we put just a tiny little bit of oil on the connector, on this little tab here that interfaces with the slide. Just a tiny little bit of oil, and just a tiny little bit of oil here where the trigger bar rubs. Tiny little bit of oil on the interior of the trigger bar, like not even a drop. There, it's a tiny little speck. That's all it takes. Use any quality oil, doesn't really matter. So you're gonna grab the tip of the crucifix right here. You're gonna make sure it goes into the notch here, the little tab for the trigger spring bearing, and you're gonna want to make sure this slides in that gap there, like so. So you will start it this way with the tip engaging with that gap, and then you will twist it counterclockwise while pulling forward a little bit, and there you go. It'll sit nicely in there. Okay, and then you give it a couple of pulls to make sure that that you can pull, and the trigger reset spring is gonna pull back on it. Okay, so that's what you want to see. Okay, perfect. That's it. Just a tiny little speck of oil on there. Look, I barely use any oil. You don't need a lot. You really don't, actually. Too much oil is more of a problem than it is any kind of acid. So to reinstall this, you want to start with the trigger. Well, I mean, the whole thing kind of goes in at the same time, and you can just work it in there. You just plop it in there, push it all down. There, it's seated. Now, it depends on how much you shoot your gun. If it's a carry gun, you want to keep it clean. You're done oiling this trigger mechanism. Because I shoot this competition gun quite a bit, I'm gonna add just the tiniest little bit of oil here to the back of the crucifix where it interfaces with the striker, and just a tiny little bit of oil, not even a drop, here on the plunger that interacts with the firing pin safety. Then we're gonna put just a tiny little speck of oil on the different surfaces of the rails. Tiny little bit, because remember, we're already putting oil on the slide, and that's really all that Glock actually calls for. Glock only calls for the little drop of oil on each side of on each rail. That's it. That's good enough. But because I shoot this gun quite a bit, I like to put in just a little bit of oil on the rails. Perfect. A little bit here on the really anywhere where you see where. So the slide lock has this little notch here. You're gonna see a little bit of wear there, and then a little bit on the top, just the tiniest little bit. We're talking not even one drop. Okay. Then we place the slide stop back in its position. That absolutely no oil there, no oil on the springs, no oil whatsoever on either the spring for the slide lock or the slide stop. Okay. Then we're gonna grab the locking block. You're gonna notice some wear on this section of the locking block, and this section here where the barrel moves around the locking lugs on the barrel move around this section, and a little bit on this front side, just a tiny little bit there. So I'm gonna hit those wear marks with just the tiniest little bit of oil. Okay, just a tiny little bit. There you go, more than enough. Push that locking block back in there. Okay, everything is looking good. Then we come back with the trigger pin. The trick with this one is get it started, came out from the left to the right, it's gonna go in the opposite way, right towards the left. You're gonna push it in, and then you're gonna raise the slide stop. You're gonna raise it while you seat the trigger pin here. Okay, so you'll feel it click into place, and that'll be good. That's when it's, you know, in its correct position. You'll see that it doesn't protrude out of either side, so it's nicely centered. Okay, you will test the slide stop by pushing it up, and it should reset back down to its resting position. Okay, that's it for the frame. So then we're gonna take the barrel, we're gonna oil the exterior of the barrel just a little bit, just these thin little lines of oil, and give it a light, very light coating, just to cover the exterior like that, because the slide is going to be interacting with that surface. Then you're gonna put a little bit of oil on the front of the barrel hood where you see wear, just tiny little bit, tiny little bit, nothing back here. You don't want to attract gunk in there, so you don't put any oil here. A little bit on the locking lugs. Okay, a little bit on the front of the locking lugs where it interacts with the slide lock. That's it for the barrel. We're gonna take our slide, and you will see that the oil has worked its way. The oil we had placed there a little while ago has worked its way all the way down, and now we have these little this accumulation of oil here, you know, these little wet spots there. We're gonna dry that up. We don't need that. That's basically excess. We don't need to have any of that stuff in there. There you go. We clean it out, remove that excess. Now I like to hit the interior of the slide just a little bit, just a tiny little bit of oil here where it interacts with the barrel hood. Just a very thin film. So this surface here interacts with the tab on the connector. So we're gonna put just a little bit of oil in there. Just one little thin little line. And you don't need any oil on the... A lot of people put a whole bunch of oil on the firing pin safety. You don't really need to do that. Okay, so that's it for the slide. Then you can go ahead and reassemble it. And reassemble your recoil spring assembly. It's gone back together. Once again, you're going to want to make sure it's unloaded. You're going to want to reach in there. You're going to reach in there and touch the chamber. Make sure there isn't a round in there. You're going to check to make sure the magazine well is empty. You're going to look down the magazine well. You're going to drop the slide, press the trigger, reset, or drag the slide again, reset the trigger, pull it again. While holding the trigger, drag the slide, reset the trigger, pull it again, make sure it feels good, make sure everything feels nice and smooth, and that's it. Oh, I'm an idiot, I forgot to install the trigger mechanism locking, the trigger mechanism housing block pin back in there, so don't forget to do that. I was so distracted with talking that I forgot to do that. Anyway, that's it for the basic cleaning. So now we're going to talk about a little bit of a more in-depth cleaning that you can do, you know, on a less frequent basis. But I mean, I do it every now and then. There's no reason not to. It takes a little while. It takes just a few more minutes. So you're gonna take your armorer's tool or your punch or whatever. You're gonna make sure the firing pin is in its resting position. You're gonna use it to depress this little plastic notch here, and you're gonna slide the slide cover plate. It's kind of hard with these gloves. There you go. There you go. You take that out. Kind of be careful so things don't start shooting out. Remove your firing pin. Remove your extractor plunger assembly with the spring and the bearing, the spring-loaded bearing here in the back. You don't need to take these apart, by the way. Just leave it like that. Okay. You will then depress the firing pin safety and tilt your slide, and your extractor will come out. Then you turn your slide over and your firing pin safety will come out. So let me give you a quick but important warning. Absolutely no oil whatsoever inside any of this. No oil in the firing pin channel. No oil in the firing pin safety cavity here. No oil anywhere inside the slide. All you want to do is wipe it down. Wipe down the extractor. Give it a good cleaning so there isn't a whole bunch of gunk that accumulates there and prevents it from functioning freely. Okay. Wipe down the firing pin safety. If your firing pin is super dirty, you're going to take the slide, stand it up, place your firing pin in like so, hold your firing pin spring down and push it down, and the spring cups will come out. These are the spring cups. These two little plastic pieces. Make sure you don't lose them. Make sure you keep pressure on the spring. You don't want that spring to shoot it out and, you know, get lost. Then you take your firing pin and slide it out of the spacer sleeve. The spacer sleeve being this plastic part. Okay, so you just wipe it down, same as everything else. Absolutely no oil on the striker or any of its components. Just dry, wiping it with a dry, clean rag. And there you go, that's it. So then you just install everything back in a backwards opposite of the way that you took it apart. Okay, it helps when you're doing this. It helps if you put the, oh gosh, the little tab of the firing pin. It has a name, but it escapes me right now. Helps if you place it on the side of the slide like that, and then you can push down on the spring and place one of the cups here, the other one on the opposite end. Okay, and then you're gonna want to grab, and this is actually really important, you're gonna want to take a look and make sure that the split on your spring cups doesn't match up with the end of the spring. Okay, so you wanna rotate that away so that there's no match between the end part of the spring and that slit, that division between the two cups. Okay, so there you go, that's really important. Then you actually place the firing pin safety in first, and you push down on it, and then the extractor. Okay, that holds it in place. See, but you're gonna see that there's a rounded and a flat side in the slide, and it matches up with the rounded and the flat side of the safety. Once you've done that, you're gonna replace your plunger and finally your striker assembly. Then you're gonna stand the slide up and hold down on the sleeve here, the spacer sleeve. You're gonna push that down. As you place the slide cover plate back in its place, like so, until it hits the back of the plunger assembly. Then you're gonna grab your punch, push down on the plunger assembly, the extractor plunger assembly, and push back the slide cover plate into place. It'll click into place and you'll be done. So then you want to function check and make sure that if you push on the firing pin safety and hold it down, the firing pin will come out and protrude. While holding it down, you're gonna shake it back and forth and you should hear it. Okay, sliding back and forth. Then you're gonna pull the firing pin back, and it should, the firing pin safety should lock into place, and then you're gonna push forward on the firing pin, and without any pressure on the firing pin safety, the firing pin should not protrude on the front of the breech. Okay. Finally, you're gonna test the tension on the extractor with your punch. You're gonna make sure that it moves back and forth and goes back into position. And that concludes the entire process of completely cleaning your Glock. Again, that final part is optional. That's something that you can do on a less frequent basis. But this is the way you keep a Glock functioning in perfect condition. And once again, we're gonna check the chamber both visually and with a finger. Okay, you're gonna stick a finger in the magazine well, make sure there's nothing in there, look through the top of the slide and make sure you can see all the way through the magazine well. Make sure there isn't a round in there or a loaded magazine or any magazines. Then you can drop the slide and function test your trigger again. Make sure it's resetting, so rack the slide while you're holding the trigger down, reset, pull. Okay, feels great. Glock in super clean condition. Little final wiping. Bam. You have yourself a pristine, perfectly clean Glock. And that's how you keep it in top shape. Do you need to do this? A lot of people argue. No, you don't need to do this with Glocks. You can literally run them without ever cleaning. It's up to you. It's your gun. Personally, I take care of my things. I like keeping them decently clean. It takes just a few minutes. It takes a lot longer to walk you through this whole video than it takes me to do it. You know, once you've done it a couple of times, you can literally knock it out in 5 to 10 minutes at the top, at the most. I mean, depending on how deep of a cleaning you give it. So if you're going in and cleaning the striker and everything, and yeah, it might take you 10 minutes. If you only, you know, if you do the like basic cleaning, it'll take you, I don't know, 6 minutes, let's say. Don't take much more than that. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and be safe, enjoy your shooting, and enjoy your Glock.